Hello. Who's your daddy and what does he do? How many of you remember that? Huh? Who's your daddy and what does he do? I bet you almost none of you know. Unless you're old enough. Who's your daddy and what does he do? I have fluffy hair. I showered and I don't have any product in it. Let's do it with glasses. I'm that lazy. All right. It's time. Man, Twitch keeps updating and adding all these subtleties, which is you never know really what they're doing. It's weird. Hey, Dr. Sheldon, how's it going? Number 6. Dr. Sheldon. Such Hey, Iglesias, how's it going? So I was thinking, let's start another character. But I was thinking, can I make cynics? AVG Jivists. The thing is, cynics, I don't think you can really convince him of anything. He seems quite set in his ways, in the sense of iron mind. If he doesn't want to, I think that's how it is. Hey, Atsuki, Zelin, Captain Bounce, Gria, Dr. Sheldon, what up? Yeah. I mean, a lot of streamers seem to be on and off on Twitch, except me, which is like every day for 30 minutes, like some sort of maniac. This is what, third year? No, every day, third year. Oh, what up, yo? All right. Hey, good morning, Dame Deviant. So, you can choose. We are at the crossroad here. I've done a lot of dark fantasy stuff, right? Everyone seems to be like, oh shit, amazing. And that's all fair, you know, all good. Hey, dibby, how's it going? Should we, okay, we're on the crossroad here. Should we do dark sci-fi, whatever that is, or continue the route of dark fantasy? Should we go dark sci-fi and see where we land? I have no idea what to do with dark fantasy, dark sci-fi. I mean, I'm assuming weird stuff, mutants and murder robots, and Dune, Men in Black type thing. I mean, I think some dark sci-fi could be cool, whatever that is. I'm not sure really. Baby spider bots. Yeah, it could be. Dark steampunk. I mean, steampunk in itself is a bit camp. Like a little bit like 1800s England. It's a bit hard to make it dark. I mean, you could, but it's not that much scope, I think. Beyond the human. I mean, we could go. Camp is good though. I mean, it is. I mean, that's. I think that's the brilliance of steampunk. It's a little bit camp, and that's what's attractive to it. I think that little bit of very groomed mustache and stuff. I mean, we could do both. We can continue doing dark fantasy stuff, or we could do dark sci-fi stuff, or we could do something else. I'm all game for either. This is practice that counts. But I mean, we could do some sci-fi stuff. Lovecraftian. I mean, we could go Lovecraftian as well. That could also be an option. Lovecraftian, like. Is it snowing outside? You gotta be kidding me. Oh, fantastic. Dark sci-fi goblin. Oh, that could be cool. Dark Pokemon. No, I don't want to do dark Pokemon. Okay, you know what? Give me a random topic. If you prefer sci-fi, add sci-fi in the topic, like a sci-fi goblin or fantasy, whatever. And whatever the dice rolls on, we'll explore today. Right, so we got two options, or three. Lovecraftian, sci-fi, fantasy. All right, are you ready? All right, dude. Give me some suggestions. Dark Unicorn. That's pretty cool. Space Jockey. That's obviously sci-fi. Sci-fi Kobold. Oh. That's pretty cool. I like it. Topic. Moth Queen fantasy. Oof, Moth Queen. Undead Milkman. Lovecraft style. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sci-fi Godzilla. Fucking hell, you guys are crazy. Again, let's roll it, and the one that rolls on is the one. 3. Sci-fi Kobold. All right, Sci-fi Kobold. Captain Balls. The question is, though, how do we do a sci-fi kobold? Sci-fi kobold. I mean, a sci-fi kobold. Kobolds are like goblin lizard people. Lizards they shift temperature. Sci-fi. Why is it sci-fi? They are a herd. They are a lot of them. They maybe have a disease. Why are they sci-fi? How do we do them sci-fi? A kobold, like a half lizard. What if they have spine augmentation because they live in space, so their body is a bit weak, but they don't have technology to fully augment their body, so that what they're doing is they're augmenting the spine to make them stand up straight, right? And then the rest they kind of patch together. That would be cool if the sci-fi kobolds or cybolds they are like clusters of grapes, like on the vine, they are hanging together. And what if the spine structure that they have to support them, they lie dormant, so it's like a bee swarm kind of thing. Agent Gnarl Clark. So the lizard, oh. I think I'll do line art today. Let's do line art today. So that we get the design, and tomorrow I'll render. Don't search. Hey, Leo Sartorelli. I mean, sure, I can do that. I can do that. So Leo Sartorelli has asked about how I do research. I mean, it depends on what the client wants. I mean, a lot of time I've already done the research about the subject because I've been doing concept art and pre-production and art direction stuff for 14 years, 15 years now. So there isn't a topic that I haven't really researched in terms of like fantasy. What does a kobold look like, or what is a kobold, or robots. But the difference, though, what I always need to do, and what I always try to think about, is what does the client want, and what is the art direction that they have. Because they always send a packet, like this is the art direction, this is more or less the do's and don'ts of our agreed direction, that the client says this, our agreed direction, and then you need to look at it and rationalize. Okay, they want looks like this, right? So if they show you one picture, one reference, saying this is the direction that we are going for, let's say there's a guy in a spacesuit, like this is the style, like this is the direction of where we want to take the characters, but obviously you can't use that because it's from, let's say, arbitrary from Space Mutant movie 2. And then you go, all right, so it seems like they want ragged materials, some cool tech incorporated into it, and then you start doing research about what could be a good additions, and sometimes it's really good to do mood boards, like you go and hunt on Google Images, finding a lot of images that inspire you and would aid you in coming up with new shapes. And what I always try to do, for example, when doing research about style, is find images that you don't intend to copy from, but you intend to look at them and go like, oh, for example, if you're doing sci-fi, you can look at fantasy stuff because you like, or like medieval reenactment, you like how the belts are. Like, oh, that's a cool configuration of belts. But then when you look at them, but you're doing sci-fi, you obviously can't make a fantasy belt, but the arrangement is still good. So what you do is you look at the reference and be inspired of the placement of them, and then you do it in the sci-fi mode or sci-fi version. And if you're not familiar with the style, for example, like I said, I have researched most of it. I already kind of know all the genres, and if you don't know them, you obviously have to get familiarized with it in the terms of what's what's the most famous movie or in the genre, or what's the most, like if you think about fantasy, what's majority of people, where will they go? Will they go Lord of the Rings, or will they go Men in Tights? Hey, Eric Moy. So that's what you got to do, and you also got to familiarize with the symbols of the genre. And that is a little bit trickier because, like I said, if everyone thinks about a certain style when you talk about a genre, there's also a lot of symbolism there where you can draw. If you draw a shape, people will go, oh, fantasy, even though the shape itself isn't particularly, fantasy or sci-fi or tribal or post-apocalyptic. But there is certain like symbols that you can use to communicate that idea, like a gas mask. Like a gas mask has become the symbol for post-apocalyptic. Like if you want to make a post-apocalyptic character, put a gas mask on, then he's mysterious and the atmosphere is dirty. That's because the symbol of post-apocalyptic would be like the fall of civilization. So there's a lot of shitty gases and dirty air and so on. So that's why they need a gas mask, right? And that becomes the symbol of it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're doing post-apocalyptic, you need a gas mask. But you have to realize that that is a very used symbol for that genre. And if you're not aware of the genre, you don't know about the symbols, so you have to be familiar with the symbols. But there is no like Google what's the symbolism in in fantasy, or there is no straight answer. You just gotta try to analyze it, and that's where creativity comes into play, and understanding that you can use symbols to your advantage to call on certain behavior, like what's his name? Like Bane in Batman. Even though he has a gas mask, we don't go, post-apocalyptic world. Rather, we think that he is prone to chaos. So he wants post-apocalypse, tropes. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Kirill, how's it going? Hey, Eric Muy. I already said that in Iglesias. But yeah, so it's a bit tricky, and you also have to be very aware of the they are lizard. Kobolds are like lizards, right? Maybe they don't have the snout, but more of like Leatherface, tight. So we don't go, normal lizard in a spacesuit, but lizard-like. Kirill, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So, but again, back to the symbol, using symbols and so on. And you can, if you're aware of them, you can bend them. You can use them. You can ignore them. You can, like the Bane as an example. Like Batman movie is obviously not a post-apocalyptic movie, but because Bane has that kind of styling gas mask and his kind of clothing, we're mentally going like, he wants to, mess the world up just by looking at him, without the backstory of him being some sort of experiment or whatever he is, I don't know. So there's decisions that we're making. Same with like in that genre, same category, like the Joker, right? The clown aspect. There's so many different versions of the Joker, so many different interpretations or the use of symbol of a Joker. But all of them are the Joker, but all of them look different. So then it becomes when you're designing a character, for example, or doing research about it, you have to try to configure you have to, if they don't define the character to that extent, like if you're doing research for characters, if you don't define, if the client doesn't define the character enough, let's say like, it's a Joker, or he's like element of chaos, he wants to end the world, so then you can use post-apocalyptic symbols in the character. If they are not that descriptive, hey, Voodoo Breakfast Kuru, how's it going? And if they're not that descriptive, if like in this instance, for example, of what I'm doing now, both said sci-fi cobalt, and there's no more information except I know it's the genre is sci-fi, and it's a cobalt. So first, step one, what is sci-fi? Oh, okay, it's science fiction. Step two, what is a cobalt? A cobalt is like a goblin of sorts, like a swarm of kobolds. They are like, I think in Dungeons and Dragons they are deemed as like lizard people. Right, so then you go, okay, what tools can I use to describe this character? Or where do I want to take the character? Because if there's that, there's a lot of decisions you got to make as the author or the designer if they don't define it. Because you want to create something that, what's it called? Not echoes, not reverbs, resonates. You want to create something that resonates with the audience, right? You need to make them look at it and go, oh shit, like he looks mean, or he looks quick, or he looks angry, or that's messed up, or you need that communication, even though the client hasn't determined what that is. They just want a sci-fi cobalt. You as a designer have to give them those options because they are not specified. Maybe because they don't know, maybe because they don't want to influence your decision making, maybe they want to see what you come up with. So a big part of it then is you think what they have told you, and then you extrapolate from that point. So you know it's a sci-fi cobalt. And maybe the client have already said it's a first-person shooter. Then you know, okay, if it's a first-person shooter, you need instant recognition of silhouettes, for example, in small scale and large scale, because you can see the enemy far away. And if it stands next to another enemy, you need to be able to tell them apart. That's where, like, for example, what's that shooter from Cliff Bleszinski, Gears of War? The silhouette work was not really good at far away. A lot, especially in the first game. In the first game, there was a lot of like similar looking silhouettes, and you didn't know if you were shooting a friend or shooting an enemy. Ricky. Oh yeah, I do line art. I do a line art a lot for client work, especially. Depends on what the client wants and the genre. But yeah, I do it all. I mean, if you look at, for example, ArtStation. 1 second. Like, I do a lot of painterly stuff, but I also do line art. And recently I updated for this game called Wild Beyond. There's a huge range of, like painted line art. Lots of different things there. But what I usually do is with line art for a client is it's quicker, faster, and it communicates the idea more to a presentable stage faster than painting, because with painting you need texture, color, mood, all these things. With line art you can get away with more. So I tend to do for client work I tend to do line art first with block out value wash design, like dark gray, light gray, and so on. and then you can present it to them, and then you can, well, this, that, and then when they approve it, you start rendering. Then they know the design is as they want it. Now it just comes down to presentation or you know. Hey, Spirited. Why would the stream be over? Why would it be over? I have 10 minutes approximately left. Kirill, yeah, Sci-Fi Kobold. Captain Boss won the dice roll. So today we're doing Sci-Fi Kobolds. And tomorrow I will, I think I will paint it. So the kobolds or lizard, cold, temperature shifting, they are weak. They maybe have a disease. The reason why they are a horde and raids is because maybe they need the juice, the battery acid from spaceships, because they drink it all the time. So maybe all of the kobolds, they are like addicted to battery acid and are all messed up mouths. And that's one of the reasons why they're weak, is because they need it, they drink it. And it messes with their body, but it also keeps them alive and keeps them maybe alert, like meth. The space kobolds are meth addicts, battery acid meth addicts. Okay, we got our little story there going on. It's good. It's good. Then we can use that as tools for symbols. So let's say, what is a meth addict? What do? They are skinny, they lose teeth, they are jumpy. So if they're jumpy and like crazy, there will be a lot of movement. So that would mean we should have items that have secondary animations, you know, so that when they move, bits and bobs are dangling, so it'll look cool, you know, so that they're not static. So when they are like swishing around, there's movements. Leo Sartorelli, it's I use a Cintiq here, 24-inch Cintiq. Kirill, yeah, exactly. They are a little bit of like goblins, lizard goblins type thing. So that's what I'm going for, like pale. When I'm painting them, they're gonna be pale. They're gonna be messed up, sick-looking, meth addict, space kobolds that are in a horde. And they are just crazy, you know. Kobolds can be anything. That's true, as long as they're dodgy, like lizard golem. By the way, I think we should maybe tomorrow. Oh, lasers, really? That's true. That's true. I mean, Cintiq is great for line quality, but I'm also not like super clean line artist. As you can see, I sketch very messy. But if I would do client work like this, I would sketch this up like this, and then make a new layer on top, and then trace my own lines and make them nice and clean. But at this stage, I would probably send this to the client with a gray wash underneath, so they can see the idea. Probably a little bit cleaner than this, depending on the client, if they want rough or super clean. Obviously, if they want stylized, super clean, like the sci-fi stuff I showed earlier about the very stylized, cartoony, I wouldn't send them this rough. They would be like, hard to see the shapes and so on. I would make it a little bit cleaner, or from the beginning. Now I'm using a little bit of a, like a dirty texture brush, so that's why the result is a little bit messy. But yeah, we started saying we should, Spirited, you should come on tomorrow, and we can talk about hardcover, and I'll render this Cobalt. I think that will be cool. Some interview with Spiridude, so you guys can get an update on hardcover and the opposition. Hey, Elf Falk. Well, cheers, man. It's very, like I said, it's messy, but tomorrow I will render this, and hopefully it'll make some sense. I'm currently world building. Captain Boss here in the chat won the dice roll, and he said I should draw a sci-fi kobold. So this stream, this half-an-hour stream, has been about trying to find out what a spice. What is a spice? Space kobold. Oh, man. Oh, you're going to talk about it in Futuro, in Bulgaria? It's cool. Nice. Leo Sartorelli, there's a lot of salary research been done last few years about salary in the game industry. You can get that data by searching for it. They sent out a lot of forms over the years about what's your salary, what's your year's experience, and so on. So there's a lot of data out there of where your salary should be approximately. And also different from country to country. And there's a lot of American figures, but it's also usually, it doesn't reflect correctly in Europe. So you have to, if you're in Europe, you have to do European rates or American rates. But the beauty of having American clients in Europe is that you get you can say whatever rate you want, more or less. If you freelance over the internet, you can define whichever rate you want. But if you have a really low rate, because let's say you live in a country in Europe with not as high currency as, let's say, American dollar or cost of London. I mean, if you have let's say you take the price of an artist in London, they have to pay higher rent, higher price for food, electricity, their home, so their salary goes higher because they need to pay more, right? So that they don't starve. Versus someone, let's say, as a comparison, Eastern Europe somewhere, their prices are not that high for living or food or rent, so they don't need that high salary. But if you're then an Eastern European artist working over freelance over internet for English company in London, you still can ask for London rates, and then you get the money is worth more in your Eastern European country. Hey, Luso. Thanks for the €1, man. It's my pleasure to have rated you. You did some cool art, so whenever I see some cool art, expect a raid. Unless someone else does another cool art, then I need to decide who gets the raid. But my pleasure, right? Anytime. And thank you for that €1. Leo Sartorelli, yeah. So the rate thing is you just got to figure out like how much do you need to stay afloat? What is the approximate competitive salary in the industry versus years of experience? Ballpark figure, you know, and then see, you know. Usually what a client does in negotiation phase, which you should always negotiate your salary as a freelancer, especially. They go, okay, what's your rate? And then you tell them your rate, but you should also say, I'm open for discussion. Or, you know, in an open way, or it's not like this rate or F off, you know. Then they go, oh, it's a little bit too high. Or if you're lowballing them, they go, yeah, that's great. They won't go, well, yeah, but would you like some more money? So, but also if you have nothing to prove that you can do what you say you do because you're a beginner at it, you're fresh out of in the industry, you can also go a little bit lower than the average rate just to get the work down. And when you've done a couple of gigs with, for example, the same client or similar clients, then you go, okay, I have now done quite a few projects. Let's up the rate a little bit. Or just go high from the beginning, but the chances are you're going to struggle. They're going to notice they're going to need to push you or hold your hands through it or whatever. And then, you know, it's not going to be worth them giving you another contract. So maybe they'll just let the contract run out. They say, oh, thank you for your service. Have a good life. Adios. So you never know, you know, but you got to be a little bit. It's not all about the money. It's not all about the like, oh shit, I got 5,000 for this. It's about having that steady income, you know, having that relationship. Because a lot of my clients, I've been doing work with them for years and years and years, and they know, oh, Bjorn, cool guy. The same with the client, like, oh, client X, cool guy or cool girl or whatever, you know. And I know whatever they throw my way is going to be fun. We're going to have lots of interesting results of exploring the art. And then the rate is like, oh, whatever, like standard rate, yeah, sure. Like last time, I know this year I'm going to have to bump it up a bit. They're like, all right, cool. And that's it. But they know that, oh, I need a year work. Who should I hire? They won't go out looking for some random person. They will go, I wonder if Bjorn's available. And they approach me and go, hey, are you available? I sure am. And there you go. And then I have a steady income, you know, for half a year. And then introduce client 2 and 3 and, you know. And if you have one client that covers your expenses, then if you have time for another client on the side, not, of course, affecting each of them, you know, so that you don't do worse job, then whatever you earn from that second one is bonus on top, right? So you know that this can go into the savings, this will go to bills. You have to be a little bit tactical. Absolutely a voodoo breakfast. You as a freelancer, you need to pay VAT taxes. You should incorporate that in your rate. You should never go too low. Never, 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 never. Think of it like a average monthly salary of the average person in your country, and divided by how long you would take to make the painting. You know, so you know that, okay, I need, let's say 300 a month to not live on the street, and it'll take me, you know, let's say a week to do this illustration. And if I do this illustration and one more, I will cover all my expenses. I'm not saying that low. I'm just, you know, making up numbers here. Because you can't say, I want my monthly salary in 1 day's work. You know, that would be, I mean, that's okay. Of course, that will be sweet as hell, but those clients are far, you know, in between each other. They hardly ever happen. But yeah, so you got to be a bit tactical about it, and you should not like crawl through the dust and eat garbage food from, you know, the bin outside just because you're an artist. You should get paid well, and $5 an illustration is not well, unless it's a 1-minute drawing. All right, who to raid? What's Tim Rimmers doing? Weird. What's it that person did? He's painting a miniature. Pretty cool. Oh, Henrik. We're gonna raid Henrik Rosenberg. Henrik Rosenberg. Henrik Rosenborg. Oh, snap. Henrik Rosenborg is a fantasy artist. Double check that he's online. He is. Add. So we're going in blind. Have a great day, everyone. Good night. If you're in that part of the world, tomorrow I will be rendering that one. As per usual, I'm gonna do the outro, and then I'm gonna switch you guys over for the raid. So just join in the raid, and see you tomorrow. Have a great one, everyone. You guys are the best.